So Jesus is like Moses, but he's also unlike Moses. He's like Moses because he pronounces blessings, the Beatitudes, but he's unlike Moses because instead of promising temporal blessings, worldly wealth, political power, economic prosperity, the way the law of Moses promised Israel for obedience, Jesus blesses them with what? As Father Richard pointed out, blessed are those who are poor, blessed are those who mourn. In the ears of Old Testament Israelites, that would almost sound like, blessed are those who are cursed. It's so antithetical. And so the Beatitudes sort of begin the Sermon on the Mount by shifting our focus in a way that is so dramatic, it's almost hard to imagine how Jesus could have expected the early followers to get this. And yet for us it's so humdrum because we've heard it so many times and pondered it too little, But in this one sermon, the first sermon that Jesus gives in Matthew's record, what does Jesus refer to God as? Father. 17 times. More than you will find references to God as Father in the entire Hebrew canon. And so we hear this and we have to really focus on how to read the Sermon on the Mount. I'm not going to go through even half of it, but I want to indicate that the first part, the Beatitudes, are immediately followed by a contrast, where he says, think not that I've come to abolish the law and the prophets, I haven't come to abolish, but what? To fulfill. And then he goes on to say that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you won't enter the kingdom. So there are two standards of righteousness here. The scribes and the Pharisees, who follow the law of Moses, which was a national code, a civic law, administered by judges for citizens. But what Jesus is now setting forth is similar and yet drastically dissimilar, because he's talking about not the righteousness of a nation, but the righteousness of a kingdom. So, he wants to shift our focus away from earth to heaven. The two most important phrases that run throughout the entire Sermon on the Mount are the phrases, our Father and in heaven. So guess what the centerpiece of the sermon is? Our family prayer, the kingdom prayer. In Matthew 6, it is, our Father who art in heaven. If God is our Father, then we are his family. And there's no longer a dividing wall between Jews and Gentiles, between friends and enemies. But if God is our Father and he is in heaven, then what does that imply about what we are on earth? We're pilgrims. We're not home yet. So the Jews who hear this, living in the Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, the Holy Land, are being taught something drastically new.